Geoffrey Hinton.
Geoffrey Hinton.
Geoffrey Hinton,
seen as the godfather of artificial intelligence, has quit his job at Google, warning of the dangers of AI.
Does humanity know what it's doing?
No. I think we're moving into a period when, for the first time ever, we may have things more intelligent than us.
You believe they can understand?
Yes.
You believe they are intelligent?
Yes.
You believe these systems have experiences of their own and can make decisions based on those experiences?
In the same sense as people do, yes.
Are they conscious?
I think they probably don't have much self-awareness at present. So in that sense, I don't think they're conscious.
Will they have self-awareness?
Oh, yes. I think they will in time.
And so human beings will be the second most intelligent beings on the planet.
Yeah. We have a very good idea of sort of roughly what it's doing. But as soon as it gets really complicated, we don't actually know what's going on any more than we know what's going on in your brain.
What do you mean we don't know exactly how it works? It was designed by people.
No, it wasn't. What we did was we designed the learning algorithm. But when this learning algorithm then interacts with data, it produces complicated neural networks that are good at doing things, but we don't really understand exactly how they do those things.
Shift to UBI, Universal Basic
Totally agree
Income,
with him. Totally
and MMT,
agree.
which is Marxism. Someday you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
And I just want your audience to think about this for a moment. I really want to beat this dead horse. You know, we are experiencing global consumer price inflation right now. This is a huge, huge problem. A problem that we haven't seen since the 1970s.
This is the biggest global crisis since World War II.
Yeah, absolutely. And their solution is to do what? UBI. Let's give people more money and let's restrict the supply of goods and services even further by making it harder for the producers to actually produce. So what they're doing, they're trying to sell this to the general public. The way we solve consumer price inflation is by creating more money and producing less stuff. It's the complete opposite. We need less money and we need more stuff.
What he's describing is kind of like what Klaus Schwab wants. So essentially, you have credits for stuff.
Yeah.
So it's communism, but digital communism. So Amer, of course you could buy whatever you want, but there's a limit. You're Amer, you have the right to 1 carton of milk. If you go for a second one, even if you have the extra credits, they're gonna be like, sorry, you already bought milk this month. You can't buy, you passed your ration. Same thing, you go to the restaurant once a week. If you try to go on another date, you can't because they won't let you in because you already went shit like that, which to me is crazy. Everything's digital now. Everyone's using their debit card, their credit card. Whenever they want, they could block you. Remember the truckers?
Yeah, that's
when
crazy.
They froze their accounts? Take that one level lighter. Your credit card, your bank card, the country decides there's limits to what you can buy depending on your status or whatever. That's all they need to do.
Let's imagine you're trying to sell this to the public.
Yeah.
What argument, like what's the positive
Climate
thing?
change.
1933 is when they started monetizing us and pledging us as collateral for the debt. Now, to register, the word register means to abandon.
Yeah.
And when you register a car or a birth or a house, you're giving it to the government. You're giving your legal title to the government, and you only retain equitable title, which means that you have the use of that property. The government allows you to use it, thinking that you own it. Clear evidence of this is anyone who owns a house, look at their mortgage, and you're referred to as the tenant. Not the owner, the tenant. So if you think you own your house, you're mistaken. Same with your car. The reason why they can impound your car is because you registered it, and under maritime admiralty salvage laws, they come along and they adopt it. In the case of the birth registry, they adopt the abandoned child.
Anybody that's got a couple of acres of land and his own water supply and can grow his own food and that kind of thing, or have some sheep or some chickens, these people are a threat to the collectivist society, because they aren't going to go to the politicians and say, please feed me, please clothe me, please give me shelter. They tend to be independent. That's the secret behind Agenda 21. They want people out of the country. They want corporations out there growing all the food and that kind of thing, but they don't want anybody living out there, because that way they cannot be controlled. In order to control mankind, we have to get them all into the big cities. We have to rack them up and stack them up, get them dependent on the state for their food.
Remember how I said earlier in this speech that the farmers need to give up their farms before 2030, specifically that year? Yeah, so that's not a coincidence. That year doesn't come out of nowhere. So that year is basically the deadline that our global elites have given our country and will probably give you to abide by these new regulations. And that agenda is called the 2030 Agenda. And now I have a slide showing you what that entails. So the 2030 Agenda is a United Nations agenda. So there we go. Everybody is part of the United Nations, right? The entire world. And this agenda consists of 17 what they call Sustainable Development Goals. And when you take a look at them, right there, you're like, well, what's wrong with that? You know, they all seem very noble. No poverty, no hunger. Who could be against that? However, if we take a closer look at how they actually want to accomplish all of this, anybody with 2 functioning brain cells realizes that this cannot happen unless there is an active and maybe even forceful redistribution of goods, foods, property, and our rights, which basically comes down to the obliteration of all of our basic liberties and our rights. And these goals, as I said, are not restricted solely to the Netherlands. They are global. And that's where we see their true motive. The people behind this want to establish a one-world government, a new world order in which they decide what we eat, when we eat, where we travel, when we travel, who we meet, and what we are allowed to spend our money on. Basically, control over every single aspect of our lives. And I'm sure that many of you have heard the famous sentence from Klaus Schwab, you know, where he says, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, right? Yeah, that's this agenda. So why are the people behind this agenda specifically targeting farmers? Well, it's because obviously they really want our way of life and the things that we eat to radically change. They don't want us to eat foods that make us strong. They want us to eat synthetic meat created by Bill Gates. They want us to eat bugs. They want us to drink soy milk so that we become weak and obedient, and we do as they say, and we buy what they offer.
What's the deal with the banks, bro? This is how it's going to be in the future. You're going to come to the bank, right? Try to get your money out, right? You're like, it's over. I need my money. You're going to try to get it all out, and then it's going to say, oh, no, we don't have that much. And then you're like, okay, I'll take that. You'll take the 500, the measly 5. And then it's gonna go, oh, no, never mind, you can't get that either. And then your money is trapped.
Well, it says you can only get 250. Can you try and get 250?
There we have it.
$250. That's what UBS Bank has available. It doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars in the bank right now, bro.
Yeah.
You can only withdraw $250 cash. That is the banking fraud, ladies and gentlemen. Print money out of thin air, buy all the assets, extract all the liquidity in the cash of the system, and introduce central bank digital currencies.
Wow, that's crazy.
Why do you think every store is pushing self-checkout so hard? It's not about efficiency, it's about control. Right now, it feels convenient. Scan your items, pay, and go. But Phase 1 is always about getting us comfortable. Phase 2, stores with no employees, no cashiers, just shelves, cameras, and drones watching your every move. And here's the twist, it's not just about monitoring. They'll control what you can buy using something called carbon credits. Every product you pick up will deduct from your yearly limit. Want a fancy lab-grown steak? Sure, but that might cost you all your credits for the year. Luxury items will be rationed, and you'll be stuck with sustainable choices they decide are good for you. Think about it. The illusion of choice, but your groceries, your meals, all pre-approved by AI systems. Step out of line, pick up something unauthorized, and boom. The drones flag you. Maybe they even shut down your payment chip. They're building a system where you don't decide what's in your cart. They do. And it all starts with a simple self-checkout. Convenient, right? Or is it the perfect trap?
This was, I'm going to use this word predicted for lack of a better word. This is not prophecy, but prediction. If this was predicted 27 years ago, somebody knew something. Okay, here's the list. This is an abbreviated list. I could have made it much longer. You know I can. I didn't. Okay, you ready for the list? Fast mutating viral disease pandemics. Genetically developed vaccines. Smart IDs. 1997! I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scream, but, just make sure none of you are nodding off, because eyes get heavy. And DNA database tracking. DNA chips. Get this one. 1997. Gene-based pharmaceuticals. Transmitting genetic instructions for a disease process. How about this one? You ready for it? Wait for it. Artificial intelligence to determine gene patterns. 27 years ago, who had heard about AI? Apparently they had. How about this one? Robots for doing genome sequencing. And then, this one blew me away. Using recombinant DNA for making spike proteins. 1997? It gets even worse. Smart homes. They have a whole chapter on smart homes / smart cities. This one will absolutely floor you. It did me. In 1997, and this is, you can do the word search and research yourself. They predicted, not 2025, but by 2020, that people would be working from home virtually. Come on. Listen, that's, I mean, how do you know that? Because you're the one who did that. World War III, of course. Nuclear devices causing widespread contamination. Nanotech devices. This stuff was never even heard of. Digital currency. And last but certainly not least, vaccination programs. I'm sorry, I got to chuckle, because if I don't, I'll cry. Vaccination programs run by organizations like the World Health Organization for a global killer that has yet to emerge. First printing, February 1997.
Breaking news, the president declaring a national emergency.
The new stay-at-home order.
We will shut you down.
Don't think you can get on a plane or a train.
This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And we will take you to jail.
We've got to get them vaccinated.
Or we will keep you in a facility longer.
As the world was descending into synchronized tyranny, I began to ask myself, how did they get everyone to go along with this?
Oh, it feels so good. I know.
Obsessed with finding the answer, I began studying every moment in recorded history where masses of people acted against their own self-interest.
The only mechanism that could explain what was happening in society,
screw your freedom, you're a schmuck,
was what is usually referred to as mass formation.
Here we are now with an economy in crisis, but with an incredible opportunity.
Unprecedented opportunity
for a reset.
Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us. We need a great reset.
When they say, you'll be happy, what they mean is, you'll be enslaved.
I think there's an interesting piece of hypocrisy to point out with regards to this, and specifically King Charles, I have to get used to saying King Charles now, who has just given his royal assent to new laws in the UK that okay the idea of gene-edited foods being unlabeled and undifferentiable from normal foods. He has just given his royal assent to that, despite the fact that King Charles not only was the person who literally launched the Great Reset. When the World Economic Forum had their launch party, it was King Charles who did that launch and was the first speaker.
The time to act is now.
Who announced the Great Reset to the world. But King Charles goes around the world jet-setting, of course, flying his private jets with all of his attendants. He has something like 120 staff who look after everything, including setting the bath temperature to just the right way and putting the bath plug in just the right position, cooking several different eggs for him every morning so he can find one with just the right consistency, traveling around with his own personal toilet seat, all of course the stupid royal nonsense. But also, he travels around with, and not only his personal chefs, but his personal food supply, which is organic food only, because he will not touch the very stuff that he's trying to foist on the rest of us. But don't worry, guys, as part of One Health and as part of the UNEP, quadripartite, whatever they're going to thrust down your throat, they're going to say that this is in the name of protecting Mother Earth from those horrible, horrible farms that are producing all this horrible greenhouse gas emission. You guys are eating meat. Oh, you're eating all these horrible, you're contributing to the end of nature. What you need is this bioengineered, lab-produced gunk from these corporations that have monopolized that industry. That's what's good for you. Just don't look to us to be eating it. No, that's for you guys, the plebs out there. Anyone who is not disgusted, truly disgusted by the hypocrisy of this agenda, truly isn't paying attention to it. It has nothing to do with saving the planet.
John F. Kennedy was short-circuiting the New World Order. He had ordered the printing of constitutional money, United States notes, which would have destroyed the Federal Reserve, which is not an agency of the United States government. It's a private corporation owned and operated by the world bankers, controlled by the Illuminati. And its purpose was to destroy the middle class in this country and thus our economy. You see it unfolding now. You are seeing, and I predicted this well in advance, you are seeing the destruction of the economy of the United States. And it will continue. It will not get better. It's downhill from here on out. Unless we nationalize the Federal Reserve, lock up the criminals who own it, cancel the debt, which will then bankrupt the Illuminati, which is exactly what we ought to do, print constitutional money, which cannot be usurped, which cannot lead to our destruction, and go back to what we're supposed to do, and quit contracting for benefits. We're escaping from the laws of nature, and there's a terrible consequence for that. You can't contract for somebody else to keep you alive. You have to be responsible within your life to keep yourself alive. And if you can't do it, then you have to die. That's the law of nature.